Hello, hello, hello. Okay, so let's just look what we're talking about is this is for the review, right? The 8A quiz review. It should be telling you you have an 8A quiz coming up. Okay, so that means we're going to be working on getting ready for this quiz. You're going to get a new packet that we're going to talk about. We're going to start talking about angles. So we're going to do this review. We're going to talk about we're going to start talking about shapes. And so this quiz will be next week. So be ready. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to do these problems, right? They are already printed in your, this is what they look like in yours. So it's not like a surprise. And what I asked you to do was go ahead and do these problems out of your packet. That was your homework. And this is the review video for you to get the answers. So that's simple. You're going to know whether or not you know how to do the quiz. Okay, good luck. So do these problems. Should have already done them. I'm going to put the answers up. I'll set up the original equation that I should see you using, and then I'll put up what the answers are, and we'll go from there. All right, let's look at these first three problems. So when we look at this one, remember that what we're talking about is we want to find the measure of these angles. And what we need to remember is what a vertical angle is. Okay, we've talked about that in class, and we also need to remember what makes things supplemental, because that's going to help us realize what the measure of all the angles are. Because if we know the measure of angle 2 is 82 degrees, and we know that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 180 degrees, then all we have to do is subtract 82 from both and see from both sides of this equation, see the measure of angle 1 must be 98 degrees. So if the measure of angle 1 is 98 degrees and the measure of angle 3 is 98 degrees, because they are both vertical angles, right? Which means that if measure of angle 2 is 82 degrees, then the measure of angle 4 is also 82 degrees. So we had to show that we could solve, right? We're setting up an equation, and then we're solving. And then we could just use the principle of vertical angles to determine these. I mean, really, showing your work is as simple as doing that and writing vertical angles. Okay, so as we look at this one, what we have to remember is the sum of all the interior angles in a triangle equal 180 degrees, which means that measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2, measure of angle 1 plus measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 equals 180 degrees. Like I said, if you could set it up like this and show me the equation, you're killing it. Okay, so then that means the measure of angle 1 plus these, which add up to 148, subtract 148 from both sides, you get the measure of angle 1 equals 32 degrees. There's your answer. Here's your proof. Your answer is they equal 32 degrees. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. This one should be fairly simple. It's just asking you to identify vertical angles and supplementary angles. So what you're looking for is vertical angles. As you see, your possible outcomes, you're supposed to list 2 vertical angles. So you could have either listed 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 5 and 7, or 6 and 8. Those are the only vertical angles. Okay. So then if we talk about supplementary angles, they're just the 2 that add up to. So you could have come up with about 16 different combinations, because you could have said that there was 1 and 2, that there was 1 and 4, there's 4 and 3, there's 3 and 2. Those are all possible combinations of supplementary angles. That's pretty much the way it goes. So you could have come up with all those combinations, and any one of those would have been correct, as long as you look at them and they put together to make a straight line. Okay, let's move on to the next one. It's the next page. This one should be simple. All you have to do to make sure you're getting the 4 is set it up that measure of angle 1 plus measure of angle 2 equals 90 degrees. And then substituting that means x plus 50 equals 90. Subtract 50 from both sides, and you get that x equals 40, which means the measure of angle 1, or JKM, the measure of angle JKM is 40 degrees. There you go. X equals 40. So again, on this one, you would have said the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 adds up to 180 degrees because they are supplemental. You look, here's what you got right here. That's supplemental. So they add up to 180 degrees. So that means you have x plus 50 equals 180. So you subtract 50 from both sides and you get that x equals 130. So x, that angle measures 130 degrees. So if they asked you for PQS or SQP, the measure of that angle, you would say it equals 130 degrees, and you would show your work like this. Okay, look at number 6. Now again, we're looking, this symbol right here tells us that's 90 degrees. That's what it means. They want you to write an equation for it, and then they want you to solve. So being able to do this right here, be able to say measure of angle 1 plus measure of angle 2 equals 90 degrees in this situation is the easiest way to set it up and to justify and show you can set up the angle. So here we go. Set that up. The measure of angle 1 plus measure of angle 2 equals 90 degrees. Then you just substitute in the values, x plus 39 plus 2x equals 90 degrees. Combine like terms, which is x plus 2x plus the 39 equals 90 degrees. We're going to subtract 39 from both sides. We're going to have then that 3x equals 51. Divide both sides by 3. And that means x equals 17. Okay, so we solve for x. Find the degree of each measure. Well, if x equals 17, then the measure of angle 1 equaled x plus 39 degrees. And the measure of angle 2 equaled 2x. And we said x equals 17. So that means you'd have 17 plus 39. So the measure of angle 1 would equal 56 degrees. And we said the measure of angle 2 was 2 times x. So that means we're going to have 2 times 17, which is going to equal 34 degrees. And if we look, they should add up to 90 degrees. So we get 56 plus 34. That adds up to 90 degrees together. So, yep, we're right. We got a good solution there. Okay, let's look at these next ones. Again, this is all about this one being supplementary, which means you have to remember that means they add up to 180 degrees. So you're supposed to write out an equation. So equation is that measure angle 1 plus measure angle 2 equals 180 degrees. Now you're going to substitute in your values, which would mean you'd have 6x plus x minus 16 equals 180 degrees. So what you're going to need to remember is you're going to combine like terms. This would be 7x. And then we turn this into addition. That's a habit we learned. You plus make this into addition, so that's plus negative 16. So it's supposed to equal 180 degrees, which means you would add 16 to both sides. You get 7x equals 196. So x equals 28. So if x equals 28, then we have to figure out the measure of the angles, right? So we set up the equation. This is what we did here. We solved it. We said x equals 28. Now we're going to plug it in. So the measure angle 1 equals 6 times 28, which means it measures 168 degrees. measure of angle 2 is going to equal 28 minus 16, which is 12 degrees. So we add those two together and we get 180, so we're good. Okay, so on this one, an angle measures 6 degrees, what's its complement? An angle measures 134 degrees, what's its supplement? So you need to remember this means 180 degrees, that means 90 degrees. We set up the equation, solve. We have x plus 60 equals 90. We took 60 from both sides. We get x equals 30 degrees. And the supplement of 134 degrees, you'd have x plus 134 equals 180. Subtract 134 from both sides, and you get that x equals 46 degrees. There you go. That's how you do that. Set it up with an equation to keep yourself safe. Remember, supplement starts with an S, complement starts with a C, C comes before S, and 90 comes before 180. That's a good way to remember the difference. Okay, so there you go. In 12 minutes, we talked about the answers to these 8 problems. If you can do all 8 of these problems, you're good for the quiz. If you can't do these, you got questions, come to class and ask your questions because you're going to have a review. Hopefully you did this because this will prepare you for the quiz. This is not an essential quiz, but it is a valuable quiz. It's going to be important for you to understand these things. So here we go. Good luck. Have a good day.